What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Sao Paulo. We got Jailton Almeida taking on Derrick Lewis.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week we are breaking down a very good card here. UFC Sao Paulo coming back after a week off, and I'm really looking forward to this card. I'm really looking forward to the month of November. I think it's a great time to be a UFC fan. We got Sao Paulo this week. We got UFC 295 next week. Really looking forward to the month of November. Really looking forward to being back as well. Was able to research all these fights a little bit earlier than usual. I even researched 2 fights that have been canceled as well. So put in a lot of work and ready to get this video out. Before we get started, I do have a few things I do want to talk about. So I want to shout out the winner for the contest we did 2 weeks ago for UFC 294. And I got to shout out my guy, Match Predictions SA. He commented 30 significant strikes. The correct answer was 28. He was 2 off. He was the closest. Match Predictions, if you can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram with your PayPal or Cash App information, I will get you your winnings there. And I do want to do a shout out to, so I did a live stream last week at this point, and shout out to Big Money NJ, and then shout out to Mr. Serious. These two combined donated like over $400. Was not expecting that, but I am very grateful. Just probably the biggest donations I've ever got since starting my channel like 5-6 years ago. So shout out to those two. I really appreciate that, guys. And then do want to shout out Prize Picks. This video is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you guys are new to Prize Picks, go to Prize Picks, use promo code DFSBTN. Get yourself a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Free money there. It helps me and it helps you. And I also got to shout out DFSbythenumbers.com. This is absolutely the best way to support me there. The most popular option is that $10 betting option. With that, you get access to the stats you see on the Friday and Saturday shows. First notice on all bets. I do 2 betting articles. The first one is my full card best bet article, where I break down the entire card, give my predictions, the round, the method, the confidence rating, and then my best bet. And then I also do a Friday betting article where I break down all my tracked bets, and I do a Hail Mary parlay, a prelim parlay, and then a main card parlay as well. And again, it is the best way to support me there. But with all that out of the way, I say we get into the video here. And we're going to start with the first fight on the card. And by the way, make sure you guys like and subscribe. I always do appreciate that. That is another great way to support me there. I do appreciate all the likes and subscriptions. But back to this, we got the first fight of the night. I'm not sure if they're going to change the bout order around. I'm assuming they're going to do so. They're kind of taking their time this week. But as of now, the first fight of the night, we got Marc Diakise taking on Caio Fernandes. We got Marc Diakise. He's 30 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 16-7, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We got Fernandes. I believe he's 27 or 28 years old. I've seen different numbers on different websites, so I'll confirm that later in the week, but I'm going to say 27, 28, high 20s. He's 5'9", he's 8-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Marc Diakise did open up as a favorite. He's currently minus 175, and then Fernandes opened up as a dog at plus 150. He's currently plus 105. So my bet, Marc Diakise is now minus 125, and Fernandes is plus 105 now. So some money has came in on this newcomer in Fernandes. So yeah, I went and watched a lot of Fernandez's fights. I think it was his last fight. He got a nice head kick knockout in the first round. But I went and watched his one loss. It was a decision loss, and to be honest, it wasn't the best look. He looked pretty good early. I really like his kicks. He has some power. He has a slick submission game as well. But as the fight goes on, he seems to really slow down. I don't think his takedown defense is that great as well. You know, he was taken down multiple times in that decision loss. And then this is also a fight where, you know, Marc Diakise has kind of changed his style throughout the years. Marc Diakise is a guy that used to be, you know, a guy that's primarily a striker, but nowadays he's D1 Diakise. I mean, this guy has been wrestling like crazy. It all started with the Slava Borshev fight, where he went out there and managed to get 11 takedowns in that fight. And then the next fight after that, he went out there and fought Damir Hadzovic, got 8 takedowns. And even in his last fight against Joe Alvarez, who, as we know, Alvarez is a really good grappler, phenomenal grappler. He was able to take down Alvarez in the second round a couple times, was able to stay safe, and then ultimately he ended up getting submitted. But if you go back and watch that fight, he got subbed because it was a head clash that hurt Diakise bad. The ref didn't see it for some reason, and then he ended up getting submitted there. I like Diakise here. And Diakise's fought the much better competition. It's really not even close. I think Diakise has multiple paths. I think he can absolutely hang on the feet, especially as the fight goes on. I think Fernandes, I don't want to say he's round 1 or bust, but I think that's where he's going to have his most success in that first round when he's fresh. But as the fight goes on, I trust the cardio of Diakise. I trust honestly the fight IQ of Marc Diakise. And as long as his durability holds up, he should make this look pretty easy. But yeah, Fernandes, he's dangerous. He's kind of an unknown, but I like Diakise to go out there and mix in the takedowns and ultimately win a decision. So give me Marc Diakise to win this fight and win this fight by decision. And by the way, I did check UFC stats. They still don't have the age for Fernandes. So again, the UFC is taking their time this week. But like I said, I think he's like 27. But it doesn't really matter. All right, moving on to the next fight. We got Eduarda Moura going against Montserrat Ruiz. And we got Moura. She is 29 years old, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach, 9-0. And 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Montserrat Ruiz, 30 years old, 5 foot, with a 61-inch reach, 10-3, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and this is a big favorite here. So we have a lot of big favorites on this card. It's kind of like we had a London card earlier this year. We had a Paris card earlier this year. We just had 294 in Abu Dhabi. I think they're setting a lot of these fighters up, and this is a clear setup fight. So Moura, she opened up minus 750. She's currently minus 550. Montserrat Ruiz opened up plus 550. She is currently plus 400. And I said this last time. I watched a few of Montserrat Ruiz's fights, even outside the UFC, and I'm still not quite sure what she's great at. I mean, I don't think she has the best striking at all. I don't think she has the best grappling. Her base is wrestling, but I don't think she has the best wrestling. She's extremely undersized, even at strawweight. I mean, she's going to have a 6-inch height disadvantage, a 6-inch reach disadvantage. I mean, she's going to be very undersized in this matchup. And on top of that, she's been inactive. She had that win against Cheyenne Bays as a pretty big dog. It was the fight where she just head and arm throwed her 3 rounds in a row, ended up getting on top, controlling her. But since then, she lost to Amanda Lemos. She took like a 2-year layoff. And just a month ago, she got destroyed against Jacqueline Amorim. I mean, she got dominated. She took a lot of damage in that fight. So she's coming back really, really quickly here. I don't like that for Montserrat Ruiz. And then you got Eduarda Moura, nicknamed Ronda, which I think there's currently 2 fighters currently in the UFC nicknamed Ronda. We got Eduarda Moura, and we got that one dude. I mean, that one lady, the Russian Ron. I forget her name, but yeah, she fought a couple weeks ago. She didn't look too great. But yeah, we got Ronda here. There's a lot of unknowns. I mean, there's not a lot of tape out there on Eduarda Moura. I think I found 3 fights. One of them was an amateur fight. It doesn't really tell you much. What I will say, though, is the fights that I did see, what I liked about Moura is, for one, she's big. She's bigger in this matchup. And for 2, she's very physical. And when she gets on top, her ground and pound is very good. And one thing that I think separates Moura from Jacqueline Amorim, because in terms of pure BJJ, it's in favor of Amorim. She's an incredible grappler. But in terms of the ground and pound, Amorim, I don't think, had the best ground and pound. So Amorim was doing some damage, but she wasn't landing a ton of big shots in terms of the ground and pound. So Tyone wasn't really stopping the fight. Whereas with Eduarda Moura, she does have vicious ground and pound, and she beats you up on the mat. She forces you to turn over, give your back, and that's when she snatches up the neck. I did not like the fact that Jacqueline Amorim was just able to get into so many dominant positions against Montserrat Ruiz. I mean, she sliced through her guard like a hot knife through butter. I expect the much bigger Eduarda Moura to do the same thing. So give me Moura in this matchup. I think she makes this look pretty easy. I'm not really sure what Montserrat Ruiz is doing in the UFC. Give me Eduarda to win this fight by first round submission. All right, moving on, we got Denise Gomes going against Angela Hill. We got Denise Gomes. She's 23 years old, 5'2", with a 63-inch reach, 8-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Angela Hill, 38 years old, 5'3", with a 64.5-inch reach, 15-3 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. This matchup really confuses me, to be honest. We got Denise Gomes open up -210. She's now -120. We got Angela Hill opening up +180. She's currently +100. Angela Hill seems to be the dog pick of the week. I've seen a lot of people betting Angela Hill, a lot of sharp people betting Angela Hill as well. And I get it. I'm just I'm very worried. I mean, Angela Hill, first off, she's 38 years old at this point, which that means she's going to be 15 years older than Gomes. And I've counted out Gomes, as I'm sure many people have up until this point. I picked against her all 3 times in the UFC, and I'm 1-2 in those. You know, she lost to Loma Lookboonmee, but since then she pulled off the upset against Bruna Brazil, and she pulled off a major upset against Heregi in her last fight, and she did it in about 60 seconds. She's young. She's going to be improving. I still think she is a little bit green, but what she is she's super dangerous for the strawweight division. I mean, she has real power, and we don't really see that in the strawweight division. I mean, I know Jessica Andrade, she has some power. Yeah, we don't really see, much power. I mean, Lamos has some power at strawweight, Zhang Wei Li, but we don't see it all that much. Denise Gomes has a lot of power. And like I said, she's young, she's improving. We're going to see, probably major improvements each and every time she steps in the cage, and that's what kind of worries me here. But man, Angela Hill, she's fought the better competition, and it's not even close. She's more experienced, and it's not even close. And I feel like she has multiple ways to win this fight. I feel like on the feet, in terms of the minute winner, it should be Angela Hill doing the better work. In terms of the numbers, I don't like how hittable Denise Gomes is. She's very, very hittable, blocks punches with her face, but at the same time, all the power is going to be coming from the Denise Gomes side. So if it is a fight that is taking place on the feet, which I think primarily it will be, and we have Angela Hill doing the better work on the feet in terms of the numbers, but Denise Gomes landing a big shot that maybe rocks Angela Hill, the round could go to Denise Gomes. So I think it's a close fight. The more I think about it, the more I kind of just want to stay away. This fight really sketches me out. I'm gonna stick with my pick of Angela Hill, but like I said, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of like sketched out about it. So I don't think I'll be betting this fight, but I'm gonna go with the more experienced Angela Hill. But if we see a leveled up Denise Gomes, I mean, she's been looking incredible lately. She really has, but Angela Hill just fought Mackenzie Dern in a 5-round fight. So step down in competition for Angela Hill here, a pretty big one, and to be honest, a decent-sized step up in competition for Denise Gomes, and it's a weird fight. But I'm going to take Angela Hill to win this fight by decision, but I don't think I'm putting my money on this one here. Moving on, we got Vitor Petrino going against Modestas Bukauskas. We got Petrino, 26 years old, 6'2", with a 77-inch reach, 9-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Modestas Bukauskas, 29 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach, 15-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Petrino opened up -220, currently -195. Bukauskas opened up +185. He is currently +170. So I've never really been a big fan of Modestas Bukauskas. I don't think he's that exciting to watch. I mean, some of his fights are just brutal to watch. I went back and to watch some of his Cage Warrior fights. I mean, if you're tired at night and you're laying there, you can't fall asleep, why don't you turn on one of these Modestas Cage Warrior fights? I mean, they're just awful. I mean, he does nothing. He's a light heavyweight point fighter, which, I mean, it's brutal to watch. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. He's solid, but my goodness, it's not exciting. Luckily, he's fighting Vitor Petrino, and I think Petrino's going to make it a little bit more exciting. But yeah, Bukauskas started out his UFC career 1-3. He beat Andreas Michailidis, who's cut since then. He got knocked out by Jimmy Crute, beat by Mikhail Oleszejczuk, and knocked out by Khalil Roundtree. All of those aren't terrible losses. And then he gets cut. He gets a couple wins in Cage Warriors, and then he comes back and beats Tyson Pedro, and he beats Zach Pauga. Both very uneventful fights, as expected. And if he wins this fight, it's probably going to be the worst fight on the card. Petrino's a guy that, first of all, he's 26 years old, and this is a guy that's really evolving his skill set. I mean, you go and watch Petrino outside of the UFC, and we don't really see much wrestling at all. I mean, maybe a takedown here or there, but what he's doing outside the UFC is going out there and taking off people's heads. Even on the Contender Series, he took off Rodolfo Bellato's head in the second round. And by the way, that was the second time he knocked out Rodolfo Bellato, who's about to be in the UFC, or is in the UFC. He just got signed off Contender Series. But since he got into the UFC, though, Petrino has turned into D1 Petrino. 7 takedowns against the pleasure man, Anton Turkalj. I was not expecting that whatsoever, but he did it, and he looked good doing it. And then he went out there and even took down Marcin Prachnio 4 times, which was really nice to see. So he's evolving. He's well-rounded, and this is a guy that is very physically strong. This is a guy that has solid cardio. Like, just looking at Vitor Petrino and his build, like, you would think that he would not have the best cardio, but no, this guy can go 15 minutes, no problem. And he finished Marcin Prachnio in the 3rd round. He took Turkalj to decision, and he doesn't really slow down. So he's a guy that does use a lot of energy, but he can go the full 15 minutes if he needs to. So on the feet, Bukauskas is going to try to make this as boring as possible, try to do nothing, point fight. And Petrino is going to try to take off his head. And then I also feel like Petrino, if he's not liking how it's going on the feet, he can mix in some takedowns as well. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like Petrino here, to be honest. So yeah, I like Petrino here, and I feel like he can win this fight by really any method. I feel like he can knock out Modestas Bukauskas. I feel like that's very much on the table. I feel like he can go out there and win a decision just by maybe doing more, landing the bigger shots, or even going for takedowns here. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like Vitor Petrino, and I'll say officially I'll say he knocks out Bukauskas, just because I would love that for that to happen. So I'll say knockout for Petrino, and I'll say it happens in the 2nd round there. Moving on, we got Rinat Fakhretdinov going against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. We got Fakhretdinov, 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 74-inch reach, 22-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We got Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, 36 years old, 5'11", with a 73-inch reach, 24-7, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. And we have Fakhretdinov as a pretty big favorite here. Fakhretdinov opened up minus 400. He's currently minus 315. And Zaleski dos Santos opened up plus 300. He's currently plus 265. So I kind of doubted Fakhretdinov earlier in his career. Not completely, but I'm like, okay, this guy, he looks good, but I need to see him fight somebody decent, because outside of his UFC fights, his level of competition wasn't that great. I think his record is a little padded, but he made his debut against Andreas Michailidis. Went out there, handled him accordingly. I would have liked to see him finish a guy like Michailidis, because up until that point, Michailidis had been finished by every single person that he lost to, but, good performance nonetheless. He went out there, took down Michailidis 5 times. He controlled him for 13 minutes in a 15-minute fight, which is ridiculous. And then I'm like, okay, it is what it is. He beat Michailidis. But then he goes out there and beats Bryan Battle, which, by the way, that win is aging very nicely. And he not only beat Bryan Battle, he dominated Bryan Battle. I mean, Bryan Battle had 0 success in that fight. Bryan Battle landed 3 significant strikes in 15 minutes. And again, Fakhretdinov took down Battle 7 times and controlled him for 14 minutes and 11 seconds. I mean, those numbers they make no sense. And then he goes out there and fights Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee, it is what it is. I think Kevin Lee is not in the UFC anymore. He had a big layoff. He came back, and he didn't look great. But, I mean, beating Kevin Lee the way he did, I mean, that's impressive to me. Beat him in 55 seconds. So, yeah, I'm starting to think Rinat Fakhretdinov is absolutely the real deal. He's good everywhere. On the feet, he's a solid striker, a little bit low volume, but he has a lot of power. He hurt Kevin Lee with one of the very first strikes he threw. He knocked down Bryan Battle, which that's not easy to do. And then, obviously, he has the wrestling. He's a very good wrestler. His control is incredible. He has good cardio. I think this guy is well-rounded. I think he's the real deal. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, it's a tough test. I mean, dos Santos is good everywhere as well. He's a good striker. He's a BJJ black belt. He's fought really good competition throughout his career, but at this point, he is 36 years old, and it's just, I can't pick against Fakhretdinov here in this matchup just because on the feet, Fakhretdinov has power, but, I think where he can really win this fight is just taking this fight down to the mat if he needs to, because I think he absolutely can, and I think he probably grinds out a decision. I'm not sure he finishes Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos here. He wasn't able to finish Andreas Michailidis. So I'm kind of leaning decision here for Fakhretdinov, and I think it's going to be fairly dominant as well. So give me Rinat Fakhretdinov to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by decision. All right, moving on, we got Daniel Marcos going against Victor Hugo Silva. We got Daniel Marcos, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 15-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Victor Hugo, he's 30 years old, 5'7", with a 71.5-inch reach. That record is wrong. Let me get you the right record. 24-4. There we go, and he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. All right, so we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Daniel Marcos is the favorite. He opened up -175. He's currently -240. And then Victor Hugo opened up +150, and he is currently +205. I really like this matchup. It's a striker versus grappler matchup, clear as it gets. I remember researching Victor Hugo for the Contender Series. He fought week 9, and I looked at this guy, his Tapology, and I saw his nickname was Striker. So I thought, okay, this guy is going to be a good striker. I went and taped him and thought to look for some striking, but no. In every single fight, he's shooting a takedown within like the first 10 seconds. I mean, it's ridiculous, and his ground game is no joke whatsoever. Victor Hugo's ground game is serious. He got that knee bar on the Contender Series. This guy has heel hooks, knee bars, arm bars, triangle. I mean, you name it, this guy has that submission win on his record. He's an incredible grappler, and he goes for it. He really goes for it. And he sells out for it as well. I haven't seen a ton of striking from Victor Hugo, to be honest, like I expected to. But from what I've seen, his striking's not completely terrible. We didn't really see a ton of it on Contender Series. We saw that fight primarily play out in the grappling realm, and he had a lot of success as well. But what I didn't like from Victor Hugo was in that second round against Eduardo Torres, he looked to be really slowing down, and that's kind of going to be expected with a guy in Victor Hugo. Like, when you sell out for the grappling and you're not having success, I mean, you're going to get tired, and you're probably going to get finished down the stretch, and that's kind of where I'm leaning here. But if you're Daniel Marcos, you have to treat the ground like lava. Victor Hugo's ground game is serious. It's no joke. It's incredible. But from what I've seen from Daniel Marcos, his takedown defense is very good. If he does get taken down, he pops right back up. So yeah, if Daniel Marcos, stuffs the takedown, survives, if he does get taken down, extend this fight, get it to the second round. I mean, if this fight reaches the second round, it heavily favors Daniel Marcos, and I kind of feel like this fight could look a lot like the Daniel Marcos Simon Oliveira fight, where Simon Oliveira kind of did the same thing. He sold out for the grappling. He couldn't get it. He couldn't have any success doing so. Marcos was able to stuff every single takedown, and Marcos did a really good job investing to the body as well, wearing down Simon Oliveira and then finishing a tired Simon Oliveira in the second round. That's kind of how I'm seeing it here, but if you bet on Daniel Marcos and this fight hits the mat, you're going to be sweating because Victor Hugo's ground game is really good. But yeah, striker versus grappler matchup. I lean the striker and Marcos, and I think this is one of the more exciting fights on the card. Speaking of exciting fights, this fight was supposed to take place. It is not 110% confirmed yet, but shout out to Big Marcel on Twitter. He said that they did remove this fight from UFC Stats and ESPN, so I'm pretty sure this fight's going to be off. If it's still on, which I hope it is, but it's not looking like it is, I'll break it down on Friday. But yeah, this fight was my pick for Fight of the Night. So I think we're losing Brenner, Esteban, Rivabix, and not going to waste your guys' time breaking it down. But we'll move on to the featured prelim. We got Ismael Bonfim going against Vinc Pichel. We got Ismael Bonfim, 27 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 19-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Vinc Pichel, he's 40 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 14-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. And we see that Ismael Bonfim opened at -325. He's currently -465. Vinc Pichel opened up +275. He's currently +365. And yeah, I mean, Vinc Pichel is 40 years old. He's turning 41 next month. And this is, the lightweight division. We don't see a lot of 40-year-old lightweights going out there and having success outside of Jim Miller. But this is at a high level. I mean, Bonfim, I know people might be a little bit low on him after he lost to Benoit Saint-Denis, but come on. I mean, we can't hold that against him too much. I mean, Benoit Saint-Denis is absolutely legit. I think it's a big step down in competition for Ismael Bonfim. I think it's a clear setup fight. I think they're looking to get him back on track here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I think that's what's going on here. What I don't like about Pichel is, for one, like I said, the age he's getting up there, and two, the inactivity. Vinc Pichel has been extremely inactive the last several years. I mean, I was taking a look at the record of Vinc Pichel, and I saw that the Gillespie loss, and I was like, man, that Gillespie loss was a long time ago, and that was 5 fights ago. The Gregor Gillespie loss. 5 fights ago, Vinc Pichel lost to Gregor. That was 5 years and 4 months ago. Since then, he's 3-2. Like I said, he lost to Gillespie. He beat Roosevelt Roberts, who got cut. He beat Jim Miller, and then he beat Austin Hubbard, who ended up getting cut as well. And then he went out there and lost to Marc Madsen, and that was a year and a half ago. So I'm not sure what Vinc Pichel's been doing. But now he's 41 years old, taking on a much younger Ismael Bonfim, who quite frankly is very good. Bonfim's boxing is incredible. I love the volume. I love the striking. And he should be able to piece up Vinc Pichel very easy on the feet. And I went back and watched Pichel's fight against Marc Madsen, and my goodness, even Marc Madsen was having some success against Vinc Pichel on the feet, which is not a good look. So, yeah, this should be Bonfim all day. The one thing that would worry me is when you look at Bonfim's record, 19-4, right? His 4 losses do come by submission. But at the same time, Vinc Pichel, he is a black belt, but I don't think he has any submission wins on his record. So, and at 41 years old, is it going to be his first one? I don't think so. So, yeah, this should be Bonfim. Bonfim should win the striking pretty easily. And I also think Bonfim could potentially mix in takedowns if he wants to, but I don't think he'll necessarily need to, just due to the fact that Pichel does have like a 30% takedown defense. So, yeah, give me Bonfim to win by decision. I'm not sure if he's going to be finishing Pichel. Pichel is super tough, and he is from hell. And, two of the losses do come inside the distance, but one was against Gregor Gillespie by sub, and the other was like a slam a while ago. So I think he's tough enough. Give me Bonfim to win this fight by pretty dominant one-sided decision. All right, we'll move on to the main card opener. We got Armen Petrosyan going against Rodolfo Vieira, striker versus grappler matchup. We got Petrosyan, he's 33 years old, 6'3", with a 71-inch reach, 8-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Rodolfo Vieira, 34 years old, 6 foot, with a 73-inch reach, 9-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Very close fight, closest line fight on the card. We got Petrosyan open up plus 105, currently minus 105. Vieira opening up minus 125, currently minus 115. And really curious to see where these odds go, because I see a lot of people betting Petrosyan, and I'm looking at the Tapology votes right now. 72% of people are picking Petrosyan, and it's one of those fights where I feel like you really can't have a strong read one way or another, because both guys have clear path to victories, and they're clear as day. So what's funny to me about this matchup is we have one of the best grapplers in the middleweight division in Rodolfo Vieira. I mean, just a legit black belt. In BJJ, and Vieira, his nickname's the Black Belt Hunter, all that. And he's taking on Armen Petrosyan, who has the worst takedown defense in the middleweight division. I mean, his takedown defense is horrible. I mean, it's the worst takedown defense I've ever seen. And it's not only in the UFC. You go watch his fights outside the UFC, he's getting taken down by low-level guys and getting controlled, and then eventually they get tired, and then he knocks them out. I mean, it happens in a lot of fights. So you got a guy in Petrosyan whose takedown defense sucks. Vieira is going to take him down, and then you don't really want... Is there a spider on me? What is up with these spiders? Gosh. Anyway, sorry guys for the jump scare. I got scared there. Anyway, where was I? Rodolfo Vieira, you don't want him on top of you. Petrosyan's takedown defense is 36%. I actually think that's kind of funny. I was expecting it to be lower because it's so bad. Like, anytime somebody tries to take him down, they end up getting him down. So If Vieira does not sub him in round 1, he's probably getting knocked out. But I'm going to pick Vieira to go out there, take him down, and sub him in the first round. Probably an arm triangle. And but if not, if it reaches the second round, I mean, it heavily favors Armen Petrosyan. So give me Rodolfo Vieira to win this fight by first round submission. But you can obviously make a case for Petrosyan, but he is going to have to survive in a really big storm in the first round against a legit black belt in BJJ and Rodolfo Vieira. So give me Vieira to win this fight. Vieira to win this fight by first round submission. All right. We'll move on to the next fight here. We got Caio going against Abus Magomedov. We got Caio. He is 30 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach, 14-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Abus Magomedov, he's 33 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach, 25, 5-1, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. Big favorite here in Caio. He is currently minus 250, and he opened up minus 425. So some money has came in on Abus. Abus opened as a plus 355 dog. He's currently plus 210. And I don't say this phrase too often because I think it does get overused. But Abus Magomedov in his fight against Sean Strickland, it got straight fraud checked. I mean, it was bad. There was a lot of hype on Abus Magomedov. He was actually the favorite against Sean Strickland, I believe. And he was looking good early. I mean, he went out there, he outlanded Sean Strickland 3-1. He took him down. I mean, the first round was Abus all day. But once that second round hit, he had nothing left in the tank. He was done. He was done after 5 minutes. I mean, how are you going to go into a 5-round main event with 5 minutes of gas? And I think Sean Strickland took that fight on short notice as well. But Abus, once that second round started, it looked like he saw a ghost. I mean, it was a terrible performance. And but then I go back and watch this guy's fights, and I'm like, okay, I remember why myself and a lot of people were so high on this guy. He's really good. His striking's really good. His grappling's really good. Opportunistic submission from Magomedov. He can wrestle if he wants to as well. His takedown even is on point. Like, I went back and watched a lot of his fights. You rarely ever see him getting taken down. But if you don't have more than 5 minutes of cardio in the UFC, you're not going to win a lot of fights. So was it a one-off? I'm not sure. I did go and watch one of his 3-round decisions a couple of years ago. His cardio didn't look the best, but yeah, I mean, if you don't have more than 5 minutes of cardio, I can't really pick you to win this fight. I think he absolutely wins the first round, though. His takedown defense is legit, Magomedov's. His striking's really good as well, and I think he probably wins the first round. But if that second round starts, I think Kyle is going to absolutely take over. And another thing to mention is Abus Magomedov's taken this fight on short notice, which, I don't like his cardio in general, and then taking this fight on short notice, traveling all the way to Brazil is not really something I like as well. So if Magomedov did have cardio, I'd probably pick him here, to be honest, but I don't think he does. So give me Caio to win this fight. I think he mixes in the takedowns, wears on Abus Magomedov, and submits him in the third round there. Moving on to the next fight, we have Rodrigo Nascimento going against Dontel Mays. We got Nascimento, 30 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach, 10-1, and 3-1 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Dontel Mays, 31 years old, 6'6", with an 81-inch reach, 10-5 and 3-1 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Nascimento opened at minus 400, currently minus 170. Dontel Mays opened at plus 330, currently plus 145. So yeah, this is actually a rematch. And I saw they fought, and I completely forgot about the fight, even though it wasn't too long ago, to be honest. It was like 2 years ago, and I think the UFC might have forgot as well. That's why they booked this matchup, because I'm almost positive nobody's asking for this rematch. Nobody really wants to watch this rematch, so I'm just assuming they forgot about the matchup, which is fine. I get it. But yeah, I went back and watched their fight 2 years ago, and by the way, since then, nothing really has changed. It's been 2 years. I think both guys have probably made improvements. You got Dontel Mays doing some work at Jackson Wink, and you got Nascimento training at American Top Team. So yeah, I think these guys both have gotten a little bit better. I think Nascimento has probably made a little bit more improvements than Dontel Mays. I'm still not sure what Dontel Mays is quite good at outside of being 6'6" and having an 81-inch reach. But yeah, I went back and watched their last fight. Nascimento cleanly won the striking in the first round. In the second round, the striking was a little bit more competitive, but Nascimento took him down in the second round and subbed him, and he also took him down in the first round as well. So yeah, I think Nascimento has a lot of ways to win this fight. On the feet, I think he can win the striking here, especially early on. If this fight does reach the second and third round, the striking exchanges probably get a lot closer. It probably turns into like a sloppy, greasy heavyweight fight. But he also has a clear path to victory here, Nascimento, and that's going to be the wrestling, getting the fight down to the mat. Jailton Almeida has a 56% takedown defense between Contender Series and the UFC, so he can be taken down, and that's Nascimento's base. Nascimento is a BJJ black belt. He's a really good grappler. He's actually finished the majority of his wins by submission. 60% of his wins do come by submission. That's 6 wins. So yeah, I think he can definitely take down Mays and probably sub him again. So, but at the end of the day, this is a heavyweight fight. And Jailton Almeida, like I said, I'm not sure what he's quite good at, but I guess he has power, and maybe he could catch Nascimento here. Nascimento's only loss does come by knockout, but I got to go Nascimento here. I think he's better pretty much everywhere. He's younger. I think he's the one to more likely make improvements at American Top Team, and he has that BJJ base, which I do like. So yeah, give me Nascimento to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by second round submission once again. All right, time for the co-main event. We got Gabriel Bonfim going against Nicolas Dalby. We got Gabriel Bonfim, 26 years old, 6'1", with a 72-inch reach, 15-0, obviously 5-0. In his last 5 fights, Nicolas Dalby, 38 years old, 5'11", with a 74.5-inch reach, 22-4-1, and 4-1. In his last 5 fights, we'll take a look at the odds. Gabriel Bonfim opened up minus 550. He's currently minus 600. Nicolas Dalby opened up plus 400. He's currently plus 450 here. So Gabriel Bonfim is the biggest favorite on the card, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I get it. I mean, Bonfim has looked incredible. And even outside the UFC, he looks incredible. I mean, I think this guy's the real deal. I really do. In terms of both Bonfim brothers, this is the guy I think has the higher ceiling because he's good everywhere. And he's really good everywhere. On the feet, I like his striking a lot offensively. I think he has really good striking, really good volume, really good boxing, and a lot of power. Defensively, I do think he leaves a lot to be desired. He's pretty hittable. He leaves a lot of openings, which in this matchup I think he's okay because Dalby doesn't have much power. But going forward, that's something to kind of look out for. But yeah, offensively, his striking is really good. I like it. But what impressed me the most about Gabriel Bonfim is you go back and watch the majority of this guy's fights, and they all seem to play out the exact same way. On the feet, he's touching his opponents up. He's beating them up. He's hurting them. And then his opponents get tired of getting beat up on the feet. They shoot in for a takedown. And the second they shoot in for a takedown, Bonfim subs them every single time. I mean, this guy is probably one of the best opportunistic submission artists I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this guy's an 80% submission rate. And if he jumps on a sub, 9 times out of 10, he is getting that submission. I mean, this guy's submission game's incredible. And like I said, he has that striking to go along with it. He can wrestle a little bit if he needs to. I really like what I see from Gabriel Bonfim. And he's taking on Dalby. This matchup is very interesting. And here's why. Dalby, 27 fights, never been finished. Besides the no contest against Jesse Ronson, which must be mentioned because Jesse Ronson did finish Nicolas Dalby. Jesse Ronson did pop for performance-enhancing drugs, but my thoughts on that is, I mean, you could give Jesse Ronson all the PEDs you want. Gabriel Bonfim's much better and much more dangerous than lightweight Jesse Ronson, even on every PED imaginable. So yeah, he got finished by Jesse Ronson. Not a good look whatsoever. It was a club and sub, and I kind of think that's what's coming here. So yeah, I mean, Dalby, he's never been finished officially, but I think it's officially probably coming here. He has been knocked down 3 or 4 times in the UFC. I see a club and sub here. I think he's going to knock down Dalby. I think he's going to snatch up a neck, and I think he's going to sub him. And I think it's probably early as well. Gabriel Bonfim's fights have been ending very early thus far. He did take Trey Waters 4 minutes, but he beat Munir Lazez in 49 seconds, which that win's no joke. He beat Officer Trevin Giles in 1:13, which, not the best win in the world, but, when people are beating Officer Trevin Giles, it's typically in the 3rd round. He did it in a minute. I mean, that's impressive to me, and I think he probably finishes Dalby here, and I think it's round 1. as well. So give me Gabriel Bonfim, clear setup fight. I mean, they're not bringing Nicolas Dalby into Sao Paulo for him to get a win and putting him in the co-main event slot for him to get a win. They're trying to absolutely build up Gabe Bonfim, and I think they do it here. And I think it gets done in the first round. So Gabriel Bonfim, first round sub. All right, now time for the main events. Hit the like button if you guys haven't already. I did do a main events breakdown, going more in depth. You guys want to check that out? That's already on the channel. But yeah, I mean, there's not much to really talk about here. We got Jailton Almeida, Derrick Lewis. Almeida, 32 years old, 6'3", 79-inch reach, 19-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Derrick Lewis, 38 years old, 6'3" with a 79-inch reach, 27-11, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Jailton Almeida opened up -700, currently -450. Derrick Lewis opened up +525, currently +350. Striker versus grappler matchup. Yeah, I mean, you know, Derrick Lewis was 1-4 in his last 5 fights prior to the De Lima win. And he needed that De Lima win very bad. I don't think the UFC was going to cut him, but, I mean, Derrick Lewis was, I think, on a 3-fight skid. Yeah, he was on a 3-fight skid, you know, getting finished by Tuivasa, Pavlovich, and Spivak. So he needed to absolutely beat De Lima. He did, and he did it in 33 seconds. Now he's taking this fight on short notice, which I get it. You know, he's probably getting paid a lot, but come on. I mean, this is a brutal matchup. Just a brutal matchup for one Derrick Lewis. You know, Jailton Almeida, it's weird. You know, this is a guy that should probably be fighting at light heavyweight, but decided to move up ever since that Parker Porter fight and hasn't really looked back. He seems to be putting on some weight. He's weighing around like 233 nowadays. I'm curious to see where he weighs in this fight. But yeah, Almeida, we know what's going to happen here. Almeida is going to shoot a takedown within the first 10 seconds. Derrick Lewis is going to have 10 seconds to land a big shot, whether it's a knee, an uppercut, something on the way in. If Derrick Lewis does not land that big strike and knock out Almeida within the first 10 seconds, and Almeida takes him down, the fight is going to be over shortly after. You know, Derrick Lewis, I don't think he has a great ground game. You know, he's a guy that has kind of gotten away with not having a great ground game in the past against guys like Ilir Latifi, guys like Blagoy Ivanov, and even guys like Alexei Oleinik, which Oleinik had him in a lot of trouble, but, you know, he's able to kind of just explode, use just his strength to kind of get up, no technique whatsoever. And like I said, you can do that against guys like Latifi, Ivanov, and even 40-year-old Oleinik, right? You can't do that against guys like DC. You can't do that against guys like even Sergey Spivak, and you definitely can't do it against a guy like Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida, BJJ black belt, really good grappler, really good ground and pound. You know, Derrick Lewis has no ground game off his back. You know, he lets guys get into dominant positions. He lets them. And if you let Jailton Almeida get into mount or take your back, I mean, the fight's going to be over shortly after. So I think Derrick Lewis needs to land something big early. And if not, I think he's in a lot of trouble here. So I got to go Almeida. It's always hard to count out a guy like Derrick Lewis. This guy has so much power. But I got to go Jailton Almeida to get this done and get it done by first-round submission. There you have it. Broke down all 12 fights. Like I said, we lost the Ribovics fight. I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure. If that fight's still on, I'll break it down Friday. And I do apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's off. They took it off the website and all that. Again, I want to shout out Prize Picks. This show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use that promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. It helps me. It helps you. It's free money. And then also check out DFSbythenumbers.com. That's where you can support me. Check out the betting option, $10 a month. That's where you'll find all my bets. Get early access to my bets. I don't have any yet, but I'm going to be adding some once these props start to drop. There's actually a couple money lines I'm looking to add as well, and then all my other content on there. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe on your way out, and best of luck for UFC Sao Paulo. See you guys later.